What time is it? 5:45. Who's got energy left? Raise your hand if you have any. Wow! Technical women. That's awesome. Awesome. So, can you hear me okay? I always wonder when people ask the question, because if you can't hear the question, then how do you answer? So that's just a technical question for you. So, all right. So we have 30 minutes. My name is Nora Denzel, and I was invited here for two reasons. The first reason is, like many of you, I have a degree in computer science, or some kind of technical field, but mine's in computer science. And the second reason is because 25 years plus after that, I still am in the industry. I have retired, and now I'm on boards. I'm a board member of two companies that are headquartered in the Silicon Valley. Both are technology companies. And so that's why I was invited, is because there's so many women that drop out of computer science or in technical fields. They wanted to understand someone that has stayed in 25 years plus and lasted, and they wanted to know how we did it. So that's why I was invited, have a degree in it and stayed in it. So you too could look like this. Now I know some of you are trying to figure out how old I am. Yeah, I can hear that. I'll tell you the truth, I'm 32 in hexadecimal. Somebody got that. So this is my first bit of career advice for you, is whenever there's a number you don't like, say it's your weight, say it's your age, say it's a test score, once you start changing number systems, you definitely will get a number you do like. And then you just don't, unless somebody like this is a math major. Are you a math major? You're a math major. Damn it. You cannot do that in front of math majors. That's the problem, is they'll know all the numbers. But I'm 32 in hexadecimal. I turned 32 on August 31st, which is in decimal. That's the real truth. All right, okay. First of all, I'm passionate about women getting into technology. And the reason I'm passionate about it, not just because I'm a woman and I like women. The reason is because diverse teams make better decisions. My goal, our goal with the Anita Borg Institute, is not that women take over the world, although that would be incredibly nice, because we've let men do it a little while and we've seen where we got, but we'll talk about that later. But our goal is 50-50, to have engineering teams, development teams, product teams, every industry have 50-50. Because when there's half women and half men, there's just a different conversation than when there's 9 men and 1 woman, which some of you might experience on your technology teams. Let me give you some examples to bring that home of why we need more women in engineering. Number 1, the first car airbags were designed by a team of men in a automotive company. And when it came time to figure out where to put the airbag and how fast it should come out and how far it came out in the force, they went to the height and weight tables of average men. None of them even thought or gave a thought to women might have a different size and shape and etc. Inadvertently, the unintended consequence was that when the first car airbags came out, unintendedly they killed women and children. And people said, oh my goodness, I forgot, women drive too. And so we will now change the airbags, and now they're safe for everyone. Another example is in voice recognition systems. Long before Surrey, and long before many of you were born, people were experimenting with voice recognition systems, and they calibrated it for the male voice. Literally, the female voice wasn't heard when they were making these systems. And the funny part was, the customers for the first voice recognition systems were the secretaries that were doing transcription. And so the companies that were designing the system said, I can't, for some reason, these things aren't working in the field. And the all-male engineering team never thought, wait a second, we should calibrate it somewhere in the middle between male and female voices. Later, DEC computers, which got bought by Compaq, which got bought by HP, came out with DEC Talk and calibrated it for both voices, and voice recognition moved along. I'll give you just one last example, then we'll talk about career advice. This is from the nonprofit world. Access to reliable water sources is huge in this world. Over 1 billion people don't have access to clean drinking water. And so engineering teams from around the world flew into 15 African countries. And the engineering teams had mixed success. Some of it worked and was sustainable, and as a result, the child literacy rate went up. And then other engineering teams were absolute failures. Didn't set up the water system, was unsustainable. So a college went in to study it to say, what was the difference between the engineering teams that worked and the ones that didn't work. And the number one reason attributed to teams that worked was that there was gender diversity on the team. Because what had happened was, when these all-male teams went in to these villages, there was always a village elder. The village elder was always male, and the first thing he said is, you don't need to talk to the women. We know what we're doing, we run the city. We are the village elders. And the all-male team said, okay, I believe you, I'm a male, you're a male, we believe each other. And so they didn't talk to the women. The teams that were gender diverse talked to the women, even though the village elder said, don't talk to the women. So the women talked to the women and realized that it was the women in the village whose job it was to carry the water back from the water source. So these women had millions and millions of hours understanding the water, the source, where to put it when they get it in the village, the soil, etc. And those teams that had gender diversity, talking to both the customers and had gender diversity on their team, had sustainable water sources. The intended consequence was children stayed in school longer and there was more literacy. So that's why we have to get 50-50 on engineering teams. Some people say, well, we don't care how many women there are. Why should we care? Let people major in what they want. The issue is when you have half women and half men, the discussion is richer, the products are better, and they're designed for 100% of the population, not just 50%, which has been proven time and time again in the industry when men are left alone by themselves. All right, so that's why we need more women there. And so the reason I was invited was, with over 25 years in technology as a technology leader, what are the things you can do to stay in as long as I have? So you're obviously here because you're concerned with your career. And so I was going to give you 5 things that help me stick out the bad times when I'm like, this is way too hard. I need to get out of here. I can't be myself. I've got to leave this profession. So here we go. The 5 ways that you can stay in, because you're already in, the 5 ways you can stay in longer in your career. And believe me, it is enjoyable, but there are some peaks and valleys. Number 1, it all starts with your attitude. Your attitude is everything. So what happened to me is, during the first 5 years of my career, it wasn't going as I had planned. People told me about this career path and this career ladder. So that means things are linear, right? If we're going to go on a walk on a path, we're going to go from here to there, and it's a straight, or it might curve a little, but we're going to go straight. Or a career ladder, we move up. Well, my career wasn't going anywhere in the first 5 years. I thought I was the unluckiest programmer there was. I started on this really hot project that was the most strategic in the division, and then it gets canceled. I was going to stake my entire career on this thing, and it gets canceled. Nobody told me it was going to get canceled till it got canceled. The manager that hired me into IBM, who loved me, was my supporter, he had my back, got fired. So here I am alone in this 400,000 person company. I mean, I just had one bad event after one bad event. My career was going nowhere, but it was going nowhere fast. I had that going for me. So I said, what do I do? And so I started to study successful people in all industries and in technology. And the good news is that they have been studied year after year after year. So there's a ton of data on successful people. And the number one thing that I learned was, when you ask the people who were successful, like 20 years in, what was the number one thing that affected their success? And in every single survey and in every single industry, attitude was number one. Because I was like, is it the wrong school? Is it because I'm at the wrong company? Is it because of where I live? Is it because how I talk? No, it's your attitude. So I said, all right, what's my attitude towards my career? I said, well, my teachers, everybody said it was a career path. It's a career ladder. I'm going nowhere. There's a headwind. I can't do anything right. So I changed my attitude. I learned, for me, it wasn't a career path. It's an obstacle course. And that just like a real obstacle course that you see when you're training for something, those obstacles aren't put in the way for you to run away. They're put in the way to see how strong you are and how much you want your career. So I changed my attitude of, things aren't happening to me, things are happening for me. My boss got fired for me, so I can figure out, how do I live on my own without my biggest backer? So my attitude completely switched. Instead of a career ladder, It's the game of snakes and ladders. And so I said, all right, if it's going to be like that, I'm ready. I'm going to woman up, and I'm going to take on this obstacle course, and I'm going to stop crying every single time something happens. So when my attitude shifted, my career shifted. People, of course, thought I was nuts. When we sold our division off, when more bad things happened to me, when I was strong, resilient, it took me 10 seconds to get over things, I moved on, and I realized these things are being done for me. My career started to soar. So don't listen to those people that say it's a career path. There is nothing linear. It's the game of snakes and ladders. You might be horizontal for a while. Always go for the learning. Always go for the learning. So I would only take a job if I would get a promotion or something like that. But I realized then I didn't have half the skills needed to be a general manager, which I wanted to be. So the way that I choose anything now, first I choose the people. Can I learn from the people? Do I like them? Do I trust them? Will the manager mentor me? Can I learn from them? Will they learn from me? Second is, can I learn something that I don't know? The learning. What can I learn that I don't know? And then third is everything else. The money, the title, the office, all that. I know it's really hard at your level to think this is true, but it is true. The number 3 thing will just come to you as you're successful. But I saw so many people change jobs just for the promotion, and they looked like they were ahead of me in the short term, but I was amassing the skills I needed to be a general manager, and in the long term, I won the race, but in the short term, it looked like I wasn't ahead at all. So that's how I choose any job now, is the people, the subject matter, and then everything else is third, including the promotion, the level. I'm not after the level anymore. I'm really after the learning. They can't take the learning away from you. They definitely can take your job away from you, lower your salary, and do things like that. So attitude is everything. My dad used to always say this, and we always laughed at him, but we found out later that he was actually smart, is that he said, Nora, your attitude is like a flat tire. Unless you change it, you're not going anywhere. And he's exactly right. All right, number 2, you have to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. Those of you that have chosen technology, it changes constantly. Everything I learned in my undergraduate degree was pretty much obsolete within 4 years. For you, it'll probably be faster. Everything around me changed constantly, and as I changed jobs, I was going up vertical learning curves. So I was in engineering, doing what engineers did, and I took a huge risk, and I went into marketing knowing this much about marketing. That's a 0 for the math major over there. It's nothing. I was the dumbest person in the room and in the meetings, and people knew it. I admitted it, so I'd ask them questions. And I'll tell you, in the year, I learned more than they did because they didn't need to, so they weren't as hungry. When you're on a vertical learning curve, as I was most of my career, it is very uncomfortable. What I learned was comfort and learning, they don't go together. When you're really comfortable, oh my God, I love my job, I love my boss, I love the project, I love everything, and you're not a little bit scared, I don't think you're learning. And so for me, going into marketing from engineering, scared to death. The first time I went into engineering management, I was a horrible manager one day and then a good manager the next day. So what I did whenever I was facing those vertical learning curves, and I had that feeling in the pit of my stomach, I would just write an entry into my calendar 6 months later. So whatever day it is, I add 6 months to it and say, all right, I am not going to think about if I'm a good marketer or not, or a good manager or not, or good at this or not, until this date. I'm just not going to go there in my head. I'm just going to do this job, and I'm going to stay in it. And when this date comes up on the calendar, I'm going to say to myself, if you still feel this bad or worse, I'll let you figure out, what we're going to do about it. But until then, we're not going to be Psycho Sally every 5 minutes saying, I don't know, I think I'm going to die, I think I'm going to die. You're on a vertical learning curve, and if you don't feel a little bit better in 6 months, you stay there. And if you really, really, really hate it, then consider going back. I'll tell you, men have more confidence than maybe some of them should. My husband thinks he can do anything. Anything you ask him to do, oh, I'm sure I could do that. If he can't do it, he'll say, well, that was stupid, right? For me, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not sure I can do it. I've never done it. I've never seen this before. I don't know. Of course, I do it 8 times better than he does. And if I couldn't do it, I think I'm stupid. So men, they'll just change jobs, they'll tell you that they can do it. I see women in engineering paralyzed, afraid to leave engineering. Or if they leave engineering, they come right back because they're scared and they think they're the worst one. I have a friend at Google, and he said he had this incredibly talented woman engineer leave, and she quit. And he said, "Why are you quitting?" She goes, "Because it's harder for me than it is for anyone else." And he's like, "It's hard for all of us." And she really felt that, she felt uncomfortable, so she had to run away. Men don't have that. They don't even feel uncomfortable when they're not doing it right. And I don't mean anything negative, well, maybe that much, but I'm not judging men. There are some in this room, and we're going to be nice. Okay, number 3, people ask how you can be comfortable when you're uncomfortable. The key is acting. You have to act as if, and then you fill in the blank. Act as if you're confident. Act as if you know what you're doing. Act as if you've been a manager all your life. You just remain calm. This is just a conversation between me and an employee. I'm not going to sit here and focus on how scared I am. I'm going to focus on having this conversation go as good as it possibly can. I didn't know this at all. I thought I had to be truthful and tell people I'm scared to death right now, that maybe that would somehow make an indelible bond between us. What I didn't realize about leadership is 3/4 of it is appearing strong and confident. Who wants to follow a leader saying, "I'm scared to death. I don't know if we'll make the plan. I've never done this before. I'm so scared." You're not bonding with anyone. Who wants to follow a president or a prime minister of a country that's acting like that? So I didn't know this. The first 5 years of my career, 7 years, I'm scared of everything. Knees wobbling, voice shaking. You have to present your code in the code review. You think you will die. One day, I met Dr. Sally Ride. I know you know her. She was the first woman astronaut. And so she came to IBM where I worked to give a talk. So IBM picked 5 or 10 of us, and we got to go to a reception with her and talk to her. She was a very, very nice woman. Unfortunately, she passed away this year. And so I wanted to ask her a million technical questions. She was the first woman astronaut, astrophysics, came from Stanford. Just unbelievable. But I asked her the one that was really on my mind. And I said to her, "Dr. Ride," and then she said, "Call me Sally," so that was kind of nice. And I said, "Sally," "were you scared when you were up in the space shuttle? Were you scared in the spacecraft?" And she looked right at me and she said, "Nora," and of course we had huge name tags on, so she knew my name. So we're on a first name basis, and she says to me, "Yes." She said, "Yes, I was scared." She said, "The only way I wouldn't have been scared is if I didn't understand how those systems worked." Yeah. Yes. And so she said, "Yeah, I was scared. I was petrified. I knew how it worked. I knew, we're this close to the whole thing blowing up if something goes wrong." So I was scared. And it really puzzled me because I had followed that space mission from beginning to end. I was really into astronauts and space at that time since a little kid. And I'd seen the television footage when she was going in to the aircraft. I saw the television footage when they satellited it down from space. I saw it afterwards when they interviewed her. She didn't look scared to me. She didn't look scared at all. She looked like a confident, smart, well put together, happened to be woman that belonged to be on that team in space. And I thought, wow, if Dr. Sally Ride can say to me, or Sally as I call her, if she can say to me she was scared, I learned that she was acting confident because she knew that this could be her last mission. And I thought, well then, gosh, I can do a code review. I can stand up and present code to my peers and to the CTO and to the architects. I learned that Sally learned to act confident. So I started to look up courage because I thought I just didn't get any courage. So I thought I didn't have the temperament to lead because I'm scared to death. What I found out is courage is not the absence of fear. It doesn't mean that the great leaders aren't fearful. Courage means being able to act even though you are scared. It means having fear, but being able to act and function like a participating member of society, even though you are scared. That's what courage is. So it doesn't mean the guy next to you in the cube got more courage than you did. It just means that he's afraid as you are, but is not going to say it and is going to be able to act even though they haven't. So I found that it was easier for me to act my way into a new way of thinking than to think my way into a new way of acting. So let me say it again because there's some pens moving. It's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting. What was happening before I met Sally Ride was I was hanging around. Oh, excuse me a second. I think I have one more. Hang on. Oh, I didn't. Okay. I don't? Okay. Before I met Sally, oh, I did. Excuse me. Oh! That was a spicy lunch. Okay. I think I'm done now. Okay. So before I met Sally Ride, I was hanging out in my head a little too long. I'm scared. I'm really scared. Can I do it? I don't know. And if you hang out in your head, you got to get out of there. It's a bad neighborhood up there. I'm serious. It's really bad up there. Don't hang out in your own head. You will drive yourself nuts. And your husband, if he listens, and that's another story. But you don't hang out in your head so long. I don't know, should I switch? I don't know if I should switch. I don't know if I can do it. You hang out in your head, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Just act as if you're confident. Just walk in as if you do a code review every day. Use the fear as adrenaline to make you more interesting, and just act as if you do this every day. They're just people like you. All right, fine, they're a little smarter, been here longer, but they're just like me, and I'm not going to die through this. So I would just act confident, and eventually I became confident. But when I was thinking about being confident so long, I just appeared less confident, more nervous, and like I was crazy. So Sally Ride, if she can do that, you can get through what you're doing. So learn to act as if. All right, what number are we on? This is the are you awake question. What number? Oh, I heard a 5 out there. Who said 5? You have to go now. No, there's a 3. Aren't we on 4? We did your attitude. Then we have to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable. We just did act. So now what are we on? There's the math major. You got to look for her all the time. Okay, number 4. You have to control your own PR. Now, as you know in marketing, PR means public relations. So every company has PR people. And so when you have a new release of an IBM database or a new release of a network appliance storage device, somebody in marketing is shaping how customers view it. Well, guess what? Every single time you talk in the workforce, you are issuing a press release on yourself. 85% of what's known in your company about you comes from you. And somehow as women, we say a little too much. Let me give you an example. One time, we had a customer who was really upset. So we had this big meeting with the customer, and one of our engineers that was on my team was presenting to the customer about the system. So short story long, she did a fantastic job. I had a large group, so I found her cube, went to her building, and I showed up at her cube, and I said, hey, Samantha. And she looked up, she says, oh my God, it's Nora. She goes, am I fired? I said, no. I came to say you did a super job. I said, I was really impressed with how you handled the customer because he was really angry, as he should have been, and you really did a good job. So she looked up and she says, you really think so? I said, yeah, that's the reason I'm here, pretty much, yeah. And so she says, it wasn't my best work. You know, I had a mistake on slide 4. And she goes, I don't think he followed me when I was going through, how the indices work. Like, I think he was kind of lost. And also, I was up most of the night. My son was sick. So do I look tired? Because I'm really tired. And I thought to myself, let me tell you what's going on here. Here I am, an SVP. I'm pretty much saying to her, Samantha, I think you're competent. And she's pretty much saying, oh, no, not me. And I'm thinking, Samantha, I think I'll pick you to do something more important. She's like, my God, don't put me on any list. I will self-destruct. Really, seriously, I felt if she's not confident in herself, oh, my goodness, I shouldn't be confident in her. And so ask yourself, how do you accept a compliment? Do you say thank you and then maybe stop there and make the press release shorter? Or are you one of those ones that tell the whole truth, all the truth, anything that's on your mind? I had one boss, because I had this trouble, they said to me at IBM one day, do you want to be a senior manager? It just scared me to death. So I just said, well, I don't know. I'm not married, but if I was married and we had kids, I'm not sure I could put the time in. And my husband's job would come first, so I might have to move. And what if we move to another state where IBM isn't? And so my manager listened patiently as I emptied out the contents of my head on his desk. I mean, I just didn't know. Like, it was everything that came in my mind, I just turned into a word and threw it out on his desk. He was patient. He waited and waited and waited. It was like when you have water from the pool. So he waits. And he says, Nora, I want to give you some advice. I'm thinking, wonderful. This is just what I want at this point in my life. And he says, we like you. And he says, always tell the truth, but just not so much of it. So he didn't mean lie. He didn't mean lie. So with Samantha, tell the truth. Thank you. And then I don't need all the gory details. I didn't see the error in slide 4. Nobody saw the error. There's probably the error was in your head. So always tell the truth, not so much of it. So when you are issuing a press release, think about it. This information is going to go out on the wires inside of your company. And when we're in meetings and they're saying, let's put somebody on the list to move up, we're probably not going to put the one that self-destructs every time we say thank you or empties her head on somebody's desk. So cut your press releases short. Make sure you run out of ink after the first 3 words and end it. For all the stuff in your head, that's what the person next to you on the airplane is for. Especially if you have the aisle seat and they can't get out. Well, you're trapped, aren't you? You're not going to the bathroom until I finish this. So that's what they're for. That's what your husband maybe is for. That's what your girlfriends are for. That's what the other people are for. But inside the walls of your company, try not to cut yourself down. Believe me, your enemies will do that. But you shouldn't be partaking in taking a gun and shooting your foot. All right, we got to end at quarter. Ooh, okay, okay. Number 5. 5, is anybody else on 5 but me? Just making sure it is. All right, we got a couple. Okay, learn how to ask. Everything in this whole world is got when you ask. Men don't have this issue. Men not only don't ask, they tell. Let me just give you one story and then we'll end this. I'm sorry to go over a couple minutes. I had this guy that worked for me at IBM. His name was Mike. Mike would come into my office. I'm his manager, and he said, I'm going on an international assignment. Now, you got to remember, at IBM, the manager is like your key to everything. You can't just go on an international assignment without me. I'm not going to go with him, but there's a job posted. You work with your manager on these things. You don't just show up saying, I'm switching departments. That doesn't happen. But he's like, I'm going on an international assignment. So I'd be laughing out loud in my head, but of course I want to get good opinion survey scores, so I'd say, yes, really, tell me more. He said, yeah, I don't know what country, but I've already decided I'm not going to sell my house, we're just going to rent it out, and the kids will go to an American school, whatever country, and he just would explain to me in vivid detail this international assignment that I knew nothing of, and he didn't know anything of, but he was just telling me what he was going to do. A couple weeks later, I'm in a management meeting, and somebody from the field was there and said, look, we have SAS, Scandinavian Airline Systems, in Sweden, and they need to rewrite their airline reservation system. Do I know any engineers that would like to live in another country named Sweden for 2 years? And I just raised my hand and said, yeah, Mike. Within 2 weeks, the guy's gone, because he'd already planned everything. He's just gone. He went on an international assignment. He's happy as a clam. His dream came true. I was glad to get rid of him. And so, oops, is this on tape? Is this taped? His name isn't Mike. It was something else. And it's not Philip either. Okay, so then I had this new hire. Her name was Anne. She comes into my office breathless, and she says, oh, my God, where's Mike? I said, I don't know, Sweden, whatever, Norway, one of the Scandinavian countries. And she says, oh, my God, I'd love to go on an international assignment. She says, where's that posted? So she lived in the world that jobs are posted, everything's fair, there's a big tote board, the most deserving people get the best assignments. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, she doesn't understand how fast everything goes. And it's not what you know, and it's not who you know, it's who knows what you know. So it's not, people say that to you all the time, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. No, it's not what you know and who you know, it's who knows what you know. I knew Mike wanted an international assignment. Mike went on an international assignment. That's how it works. So in your work, it's the same thing. It's not what you know, and it's not who you know, it's who knows what you know. You want to go work in your cube harder than anyone else, and you think one day the success police are going to come in and promote you? Well, just like Anne, you can think that we read your minds and that life is fair. So learn how to ask. All right, I have one slide, and it's going to come up. I was just going to tell you, I have a Twitter feed. Where is it? I have a slide. Where's Joe? His name is Joe, and it's coming up. I was just going to put my handle. I do one career tip per day on this, so it's not intrusive. There you go. It's at Denzel. And if you subscribe to that, there's one tip a day, and it's actually really short because you only get that many characters. So, of course, I do it, and there's too many characters, then I have to cut it down. So if you want one career tip a day, there it is. And I will end with this is my favorite Grace Hopper quote. And I lived my life by it, and I actually didn't even know she said it till a couple years ago because I had read it, and I'd written it down in a journal, but I didn't know who she was when I was really young. But what she said was, ships in the harbor are safe. but that's not what ships are made for. And that's what I think about my career. When I was an engineer in the cubicle and working, and I loved it, I was safe. But that's not what I was meant for. I was meant to have a long, lasting, fulfilling career where I moved up, etc. And I felt every single time I switched, even today, I'm like, why did I get myself into this? I could be programming somewhere quietly. It would not have to stand on the stage and talk. So ships in the harbor are safe, but that's not what ships are made for. All right, we have a break now. I'll stay up here and answer questions for you, and those of you that don't want that, you can go on the break. And thank you so much for your attention. Thank you. Thank you.